Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about two Chanel perfumes. They're both from the Les Exclusifs line and I'm reviewing them together because I'm planning on doing a few of these Les Exclusifs and I just thought it would be easier to put two in one video and try and be a little bit less expansive and time consuming with my reviews. So the two that I've chosen to do today are, here it is. This is 31 Rue Cambon. It is the Eau de Parfum current formulation. I bought this last summer at duty free. I've got a batch code on here of 8201 in case that's of any interest to anyone. Spoiler alert, is my favourite Les Exclusive. I've used that much since last summer. I took it on holiday, so I bought it at the airport going on holiday. I wore it most of the time on holiday and then I've used it quite a lot since I've been home as well. So yes, I love it, of course. Now this fragrance is a chypre style fragrance. There is no oak moss listed in the notes, however, I am pretty certain I smell oak moss in here fairly early on, and then over time it becomes slightly more noticeable. And not a massive dose, but I definitely pick it up. And I will give you the other notes on this one. So we have black pepper, bergamot, green notes, iris, ylang ylang, rose, patchouli, labdanum, and woody notes. For me, the opening is quite citrusy, but it is not cologne style citrusy. It isn't really sort of tangy or zesty. I suppose it is tangy-ish, but it's not like cutting into oranges and lemons and stuff. It's not that kind of freshness. To me, it's a very rounded citrus. It's more lemony bergamot than anything else, and it also has this hard candy feel about it, which makes me think of lemon drops. So yes, it has a sharpness to it and a bitterness to it, but it is also quite smooth, and I picture this, you know, hard yellow candy, which is your lemon drops, which is those sweets that have the sherbet in the middle. And yeah, you get that tartness, that freshness from it. Quite early on, I do definitely get a really lovely dose of iris. The iris is slightly powdery, but also slightly suede-like. It mixes in with everything else, and it does the iris magic. And I think Chanel do iris really beautifully, as do Guerlain. I think Chanel are kind of famous really for their iris and their jasmine and their rose, but definitely they use a lot of iris in a lot of their perfumes. I think if you are an iris lover, then you need to put this one on your list of things to try if you haven't done already. I have never found the rose. It's probably in there changing the tone of the florals, but I find it more of an ylang ylang and maybe it's more of a white floral as well. So even though it's not listed, it wouldn't surprise me if there's some jasmine in here mixing in with the ylang, giving this muted yellow tone. The whole fragrance feels yellow, kind of sunny, but with this slightly austere feel, I guess, from the iris. It truly is quite the masterpiece in my opinion, and I don't say that very often, but it's right up there. When I look at my fragrance collection and think about if I had to say 5, that was all I could save from a fire, this would be one of them. So it is that special to me. Honestly, it's so beautiful. At the moment, mostly what I'm getting is this floral, iris, slightly powdery, slightly sweet, but no added sugar I think the sweetness comes from the citrusy accord, that lemon sherbet accord, and also probably from the florals. I don't smell an added vanilla or an added sugar of any description. But the act of the iris is like putting a gauzy layer over the top of everything and softening it up. It's like if you took flour, you know, what you used to make bread with, took flour in your hand and threw it over the top of everything, and just as it sort of settles over this bright yellow, everything becomes a little more muted and toned down because of that flour in the air. I think we'll leave the Rue Cambon there for now, and we're going to talk about 1932. I've chosen 1932 because they are compared, and they are kind of similar, but they have a different texture and a different dry down. But 1932 this is also the Eau de Parfum. I'm not sure on the year of this one's birth, but it is it's the Eau de Parfum. So all the Eau de Parfums were created in 2016 or released in 2016. That's when they discontinued the Eau de Toilette and replaced them with the Eau de Parfums, all created by Olivier Polge. I get myself confused. All created by Olivier Polge. And I get a similar feel from this, but it is not the same. And I will just read you the notes on 1932. So this one has aldehydes, pear, grapefruit, iris, floral notes and jasmine, musk, woody notes, vetiver, vanilla and incense. Now this one does have a different fruity opening. This one always reminds me a little bit of hairspray. There's something kind of sharp and chemical smelling, not the aroma chemicals that I'm always banging on about, not that, but it simply reminds me of when my mum used to use hairspray back in the 90s. She always used hairspray, and it reminds me of when she used to spray that and it kind of catch in your throat. This is not a citrusy perfume like 1932 is on the opening. I don't get that lemon sherbety feel from it at all. I can smell the pear, although to be honest, it could even be an apple. Like, I only say I can smell the pear because I know it's a listed note, but if I was just smelling it blind, I would be thinking of an orchard, but whether it was pear or apple, I wouldn't 100% be able to discern. It has a more of a woody tone. I'd say it's less sweet. You can pick up on the iris. But it does also start to kind of morph a little bit towards the Rue Cambon feel. But this one is drier, whereas Rue Cambon is a little dry. 1932 is more dry. Has that hairspray note in there with the fruity tones, but this is not juicy fruity, it's not syrupy fruity, it's not that sweet at all really. It's more natural, I guess. It's literally like you cut into an apple and a pear and they're sat in front of you. So they're not like right up, you know, it's not really, really strong on the fruits, but they're just a little bit of that smell in the air, along with some dry woods, some dry iris. Overall, much woodier, 1932, woodier, but fluffier as well, softer. Rue Cambon is really strong. I get 12 hours plus from it and really good projection. It's really, really strong. And 1932 has a softer feel in general, just gently wafting around. And I think that is it for now, and we'll come back with when I've got a little bit more to add. Okay, so I am back to talk a little bit more about both fragrances, and it's been about an hour and 20 minutes on my skin now. We'll go back to Rue Cambon, and I still get this delightful powderiness, which I think is still coming from the iris, but the tone is changed. It's not so blatantly iris now, it's just more of a powdery, musky kind of feel. There's what I think is an oak moss note now. I honestly think that there's this sort of like sharp yet rooty kind of green note that I feel sure is oak moss that's coming through. I still smell the gorgeous florals, and I would say that Rue Cambon is much more floral in nature than 1932. And definitely a chypre fragrance. So if you hate chypres, it's not for you, but it is not a really blatant full-on chypre. I would class it as beginner chypre, because I don't tend to love chypres. I only own a couple myself, and I tend to like the more amber floral chypre. So it's almost like chypre meets oriental in style. And that's what I get here. Even though this isn't vanillic and I don't really get an amber note as such, I do get a little bit of a sticky sweetness in there that could be a kind of ambery touch. It still feels yellow in hue because I smell the florals. I think the citrus is mostly gone. There might be a hint there of that lemon sherbet still, keeping it a little cool. To me, it's a really classy, put together, you've got all your ducks in a row, shall we say. You are well groomed, you are confident, you have flair, you have standards and you stick to them. That's the kind of perfume this is. This is not someone messing around. This is not frivolous. It's a little bit serious, but anyone can wear it if they love it. I mean, I don't class myself as that kind of person, but it's just the idea that I have in my head. There's a tinge of green in the mix, but I do wonder if that is that oak moss note that I keep talking about. Just a hint of green, but it is more of a yellowy fragrance. And it's kind of hard. Like when I said about the hard candy, the lemon sherbet, it's got a kind of a hard edge to it. Not exactly metallic, but the texture is a little on the harder side. Whereas when we go over now to 1932, this is very fluffy, very soft, ethereal, definitely gone quite woody, but it's like powdered wood mixed in with iris, sweetened up a little bit. And it's like you took a little pinch of Rue Cambon, you put it over here with the 1932 and you sprinkled it into the mix, and then you fluffed it all up a bit. This is almost a nondescript, fluffy, sweet, musky, iris, woody concoction at this point, but in a very dreamy and attractive way. I think nondescript can sound insulting or not good, but I don't mean it in that way. I just mean it's difficult really to pick up any obvious components of 1932 and say I specifically pick out a note. I can only describe it as this fluffy, sweetened, musky iris, slightly floral but much more woody scent that just gently, as it dries down further and further on the skin, it does get to me more dry, more woody, and less sweet, I suppose. The sweetness in 1932 compared to Rue Cambon, let's say Rue Cambon's got that much sweetness, 1932's got that much. Because it's whatever is in there that's making it sweet is counteracted by these undertones, these woody undertones, which I think is the vetiver. And I think there was a generic woody notes thing, wasn't there? I find Chanel are very vague in their note listings in general. What's on Fragrantica seems to be what's on the Chanel website. So I wonder if that's an intentional thing. Are they protecting themselves from potential clone houses? Or are they just leaving it up to our own imaginations? Is it some kind of marketing ploy to keep that note listing very vague? I wonder if anyone's got any thoughts on that, because I do find that when I've been looking up different Chanel fragrances lately, the note listings have been very vague, and I'm noticing fairly distinctive notes in some of these perfumes that aren't even listed. So I wonder if any of you have that same experience, if you can let me know. But I think we'll call it a day, except to just talk about the longevity a little bit. Rue Cambon, this one, as I said earlier, 12 hours plus on my skin. It is of course all subjective. It might be different for you. I tend to get very good longevity and projection from my perfumes in general, and I find Rue Cambon is way up there in my collection as being exceptionally long lasting. 1932 less so. I haven't tested it well enough to tell you that I consistently get this long from it, but I will say that the few times I've tested it, it's just gently faded away to this soft woody musk. And I've not really figured out exactly how long it lasts, but I think that the lasting power is acceptable at the very least. So we'll say at least 7 hours on my skin. But of course, in those last few hours, it's fairly close to the skin. Rue Cambon has much more of a noticeable character. I would, if I'm wearing Rue Cambon, I keep my sprays down to maybe 2 to 3 for a normal sort of daytime. And if I'm going out, then I might wear 4 sprays. 5 are the absolute musk, but really musk. 5 at the most, but that is too much. When it comes to 1932, I would imagine that I'm going to wear a minimum of 5 sprays on a day-to-day basis, and probably even more if I wanted to wear it as a nighttime perfume. But I don't feel like 1932 has enough character for me personally for a night out. 1932 is soft and billowy and more daytime. It's maybe more of that kind of clean aesthetic, masculine or feminine, either or is absolutely fine, I think, for 1932. But I see it more as a floaty, ethereal kind of scent, and not really a night out scent for me. But I think in terms of when you look at the value, if you're on a budget and you need to make sure what you're spending is worth it for you in terms of the longevity of the perfume, the value in 1932 compared to Rue Cambon, just based on performance, Rue Cambon is almost twice as strong in terms of character and longevity and all of that stuff. So my money's on Rue Cambon, but I do think 1932 is really beautiful. And if you like things that are softer and drier and fluffier, then you might enjoy 1932 more. So those are my thoughts on the 2 Chanel Exclusifs, 1932 and 31 Rue Cambon. Let me know if you're familiar with these 2 fragrances. How do you feel about them? Are they worth the money? I personally think Rue Cambon is just about worth retail, simply because of its excellent performance and the high quality that I perceive when I smell it. 1932, I don't think I would pay full retail. In fact, I wouldn't pay full retail, but I could be tempted if I saw it at a bargain price. That's just my thoughts, and value is a very subjective thing. Cost, price, budget, all of that has to come into it. So just to let you know, there will be more Chanel reviews coming up. I've got samples of Gardenia, 28 La Pausa, but it's the EDT, so it's the older formulation. And I've also got a bottle of Beige, and I've got a sample of Missia. So let me know in the comments if you have a preference for what review you'd like to see next, and I'll see what I can do for you. That's it then. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.